Now, the flying aircraft carriers. While most of us, right, are kind of lost about technology and things, the world's been moving on, right? And I know they have marked, 6th-generation fighters to come out 50 years from now. No, they've been busy, right? In fact, Elon Musk has perfected the skin that will go on these fighters. But let me give you something here. Let me let you know some facts here. The USA does not have hypersonic technology. We don't. That's why we're working in tandem with Israel in a laser system that can counter hypersonics. Russia has hypersonics. They have the Zircon hypersonic cruise missiles, right? China has hypersonic missiles, a lot of them. In fact, China has so many hypersonic missiles, and their technology base is so vast, they're becoming a leader in military technologies in this world. A severe power shift is taking place. The U.S., of course, we had air supremacy. And so to take that even further, they're working hard on 6th-generation fighters. They call that 6th-generation technology. It's not your, it's not like the Su-57 that the Russians have and the 5th-generation Raptors or Lightning II fighters and all that kind of stuff. It's not like the RQ-4 Global Hawk. If 6th generation is coined magic technology. So they just simply call it magic, which means it's technology that's very difficult to convey because of its true nature. It is indeed software, but hardware and atom-based technology, right? Lots of little nanoparticles in there. And again, SpaceX is utilizing nanotechnology. Where do you think they've been getting all that research money from? And so we have in America, we have the Boeing and we have Lockheed Martin, and we have Northrop Grumman. These guys are responsible for most of the aeronautical advances that have been made in the USA. And the Air Force right now is relying on that and actually bringing all that together under one roof to perfect some things. But there's some things that have been put into service already that maybe you have seen, and I spoke about this once before. They have a phantom effect. A phantom effect is when you look over your head and you thought you saw something, but you didn't. It's kind of like a blur in the atmosphere, right? You'd swear that something was up there, you just don't know what it is. Those are observation platforms, and they're going to complement some of the airborne aircraft carriers that they're going to have. And that follows suit with something that they had in World War II. So the speed of these aircraft is anywhere between some of the new 6th-generation aircraft is going to be between 23 miles an hour to above hypersonic. Well, in the range of hypersonic. They're going to do that very efficiently with the new power plants they have perfected. A lot of the drone aircraft are out there right now, flying right now. Unfortunately, some of those drones are not us. But understand something. What they have done is they have put most of the development in the hands of corporations. Now, you all know this is going to severely empower the corporations and has empowered them. Many of these corporations in the field of technology, because they're leaders in artificial intelligence, the military normally sources these smart individuals from these corporations, right? And they give them a list of what they need. And then these people begin to adhere to that list of things, and they compete for contracts, so on and so forth. So there's a list of requirements 6th-generation aircraft are going to have, and they have met just about all of them. Now, while they will say that they need to develop this, magic technology is there. It's already there. It's like warehoused. Okay, so that means these hostilities in the world, and this, listen, with these technologies, it'll help you understand the hostilities in the world. When Al-Qaeda is walking around shooting people up with guns, they could easily put a stop to that. Right? I mean, they could easily put a stop to it. In fact, you'd be surprised at what they can easily put a stop to. But they do things in proportion to the threat all the time. They don't want to, well, you wouldn't be able to see it anyway if they utilized it, but there are times when advanced tech has been utilized, but it's never interpreted that way, right? It's always interpreted some other way. So there's a war that they're engaging in already engaging in. You just can't see it. We're not talking about cyber warfare. We're talking about real people dying. It began in the software arena with the simulations pods that they have, because that's your brain of the operations, right? Real-time simulations of things that are happening in the world. If just like the riots that are happening in New York right now, the protests, they're simulated. There's a simulation running of that protest. So they have a simulation, which is a copy of the world running on a machine. And they have other machines that are around this matrix that will solve the problems and advise what can be used and what can't. Some vehicles are autonomous and are dispatched for several different reasons, but it's very sophisticated and numerous of how they're operating with things. Remember, we live in a world that's networked, right? All this public stuff is almost like propagandist hype, so that you'll never know the true nature of a real war that's going on. But we know it's spilling over, because it's some very unusual things that are happening to folks now, right? Civilians are paying a heavy penalty for that. Just like half the homeless are gone now, right? You don't know where they are. There could be rumors about things, but mankind has always known that they're going to have to deal with an extraordinary element. Mankind's course of life, right, through working with metals, and then going to, we get the cars going and everything, then we get the aircraft and the boats. They always knew, and they had an understanding that just like a baby in a womb, so does man have his trimesters of growth, right? And now we're in that field of technology where we have replicated the human brain, right? For example, it used to take, how many computers, somebody knows this, how many computers, supercomputers did it take to replicate 1 billion neurons 2 years ago? It took a whole bunch of supercomputers to do that. But now they have a machine where they have replicated the entirety of the human nervous system. And it functions just like just like a person would. It functions just like you would. A machine is doing this. These are thinking machines. These do not have the brain cells on there, but it simulates the body perfectly. Somebody says D-wave. No, not that. No, this is not D-wave. No, this isn't D-wave. This is it's an answer. Most of the decisions that they make around the world right now are decisions based on trending, based on a machine. So for every problem in the world, there's an advisement on what to say, what time to say it, what demographic to give it to, and everything else, and they can follow this. And normally they have the outcome of just what the trending says, because people are so programmed or predictable in what they will do. So that's why it'll seem like a situation in the world is going in one direction, and then all of a sudden you wake up and it's gone, right? And yet you wonder to yourself, well, how did they just change that? How did that situation change, right? Or repetitive situations. It's not the Mandela effect. It's these guys. They know how a person operates by way of the brain. So they know what stimulates you. They know what puts you to sleep. A lot of people right now have been having an issue staying awake. Some people are becoming frightened to go to sleep because they're bombarded with too much imagery when they go to sleep. And then some people who go to sleep, they don't want to wake up, right? And it's happening in areas, and it switches like a clock. So you know that's when something switches in patterns, and that pattern stays consistent for about 3, 4, 5 months, then you know that is somehow programmatically stimulated, right? Which it is. So all these things are happening, but the technology is so different, right? That right now you could be engaged in something very serious and you would have zero discernment of it. In fact, people have been engaged in things and they could not discern it. And they ended up being casualties or responded just like they were supposed to respond, and they had no clue of it. So in other words, they're being utilized, right? One group against another group. It's kind of what, think of it's warfare through you, through your mind, through what you are willing to believe and to accept and live your life by. And then you begin to engage combatively with others based on what you've been fed. And it works perfectly because the civilians or people, the populace, they can wear down one another. They can do that in a big way. And when they wear down one another, they also confuse one another. And one thing they know about people is, in order to get them to start believing in things that are not real at all you have to do is never dispute it. When something is raised and you don't dispute it, right, people are going to go further. They're going to start utilizing their imagination and theorize. This thing is true, that thing is true. And before you know it, you have an entire story that's been theorized, but everybody accepts as truth. And while everybody's on the right looking at that, right, then those who seek to preserve their lives, and they're doing so without you being in the way, because you're looking and doing things and believing that the world is one way, when in truth it's a very different way. Christians, I would say, are the only ones who have the ability to break that through their submission to Christ, because Christ is the only one that can grant a person sight. Because if you don't have sight, you're going to be stuck. I believe that's part of that delusion that is spoken about in the Bible, but a delusion you cannot see. You got to remember that. You can't see a delusion, which means what you're believing that's being presented to you is likely not even real at all. It just seems like it's real. People argue like it's real. And plus, they know that if a person believes something to a point where they argue over the matter, right, that seals it. Do you guys know that? That's also a satanic tactic. That's a very satanic tactic to get you to fight over something, because when you do that, now you're vested in it. And when you have vested yourself in something, you're not willing to give it up, because you fought over it, possibly bled over it, right? You are bound to it, and you will defend it. And they're trying to get more and more people to become bound to things like this on a very different level. And for the most part, it works. Now, again, the only thing that can really break that away from a person is Christ, because Christ is the only one that can grant eyes to see. There are lots of people trapped in a paradigm that's not quite real. They're not going to see anything, right? It's like letting a person add fuel to their own fire. They just don't know it's fuel. And then one day you come and strike the match. But here's the hope of the adversary. Suppose time went on and people believed in this world the way it is, but it was all a lie and it was all fake. And then one day, somebody stands up and they say, what you've been believing in is a lie, here's the truth. And they show you it in such a way to make people look just like fools. Now, mind you, people have fought each other for this, fought each other over this. They have divorced over it, created or committed genocide through it. They have done all manner of evil by it. Well, when they show the truth and it's indisputable, that will take the last bit of hope out of anybody who was a part of it. And they will feel like the lowest of the low. They won't feel worthy enough to say, Lord, forgive me, they'll give themselves over to whatever power seeks to have them, because they will take the life and the soul out of somebody if they did that. Right? Be like you, just like if you killed somebody and you thought it was in the name of good, but you found out you did it for an evil cause, but you believed that evil cause was good, you would be crushed. You, the Christian, would be crushed, wouldn't you? Well, it's going to happen similar to that. And they're causing people to do this to one another. And they're going to pull the rug out from under everybody. And when they find out the truth, it's going to create a severe depression in many, many people. So much depression that people will not care what they've given themselves over to. That's why you read in the Bible how many people were so submitted to certain things, and the Bible goes into detail about a time just like that, but that's a very real scenario. It's happening, unfortunately. And when people do see the truth of things, first is they're going to be in great disbelief, but then that's when your stomach drops. That's when your stomach drops, and that's when something happens to you spiritually. And even at that moment, you won't be condemned, but people will condemn themselves. Just like the Bible said they would. They're going to condemn themselves, giving up, falling away from the faith. You got to ask yourself, well, what can cause people to really fall away from the faith in great numbers till there's only a remnant left, only very few left, right? What can ever cause that? It's when you fight and bleed and murder for a cause. And you thought it was for good, but you find out that you've taken life for evil, that you've contributed to the taking of life of evil, that you were following the evil that you thought was good. Why do you think the Lord called us out of this world? I'm telling you, with the technology they have, there's no way a person can discern on their own the difference between the two, the difference between quite a few things. And there's so much technology coming forward. The neurological taps that they're giving everybody, right? The BCI devices that Elon Musk has already perfected, but that the schools are thinking about implementing, right? The incentive they're about to give everybody, and everybody will likely take it. The money they're about to distribute for being a participant in certain activities, people will likely take it, and that will be similar to the mark of the beast. That will really be similar to the mark of the beast. And people are just not ready for it. They're not ready for it. Because so long as if we can't stand up in our Lord's word independently with all faith, right? Looking to him. The key is this. Not for you to stand up, be saved, have joy, jumping around all the place all by yourself. No. The key is looking to Christ for all things. But here's the question. Do we really look to Christ for all things? Or are we looking somewhere else? Because the trouble begins when you look somewhere else. Everywhere the Lord is not, I'm telling you that Satan and darkness is. There is no other area you can look into and find anything else. You're either going to find the Lord, which is the light that we seek, or you're going to find darkness, which is of the devil. You're not going to find anything else. So you're either serving with everything that you do, one thing or another. There is no middle ground. There's no place. There's no neutral point where you're not serving either side. There's no such thing as that. A person that says, well, I'm not serving either side because I need to make up my mind. Well, guess what? If you're not serving the Lord's cause, while you're making up your mind, you're serving the devil's cause. So you're either on the side of righteousness or unrighteousness. There is no middle. But a lot of people are being fooled into believing there is. Just like they're being fooled into believing that they have time, that the world's not going to abruptly change right before their eyes anytime soon. That's a massive falsehood, but a lot of people believe in that. I don't subscribe to it. I can't help, though, to subscribe. I can't help to know that things will change abruptly because of my own personal relationship with the Lord and things he shows me, because I trust what he gives me. But it's no good for you to believe in my word. It is good for you to believe in the Lord's word. And your relationship with the Lord is yours. You can either build it or not. My encouragement to you is, tonight, hopefully, you saw some ways that the world can actually consume you. Right? They can consume you. Sometimes we can have thoughts and ways that are not bound in righteousness. They just feel familiar and comfortable to us. We're just used to working in those ways. It doesn't make them righteous. But I hope you understand there is a way. There's a time. There's a season that belongs to the Lord. And part of that time and season is upon us right now. And although everything in you would say, relax, you need rest, sit back, don't do anything, isn't there a deep yearning somewhere to tell someone to wake up? Something is different. I know that bugs people all the time. Something is different. What is it? Technology is going beyond propulsion. Jet engines, that's not the highest form of technology we have. Artificial intelligence is an understatement. Man has gone further than they ever have gone before in doing things. They have truly dug into some very dark things. And the world is not what you think it is. It is not the peaceful place you believe it to be. There's something brewing here, and it wants you. All of what you see is an effort to get to you. Hope you never forget that. Never forget the objective of what's happening in the earth. But those of you who belong to Christ Jesus, now everything in your life is for your deliverance and for your ultimate victory in Christ. I hope you guys remember that. Listen, I can't keep you guys. It's past the mark. You guys have been talking a long time. I got to start earlier or something. We have a lot of tech out there. I was going to go through a big list, but you guys don't want to be bored by a bunch of words and names. But who's the strongest and who's more capable in the world in the theater of combat is different. And that's going to be proven. I tell you, in the Bible, it is very clear in the Bible that there was a power shift. And those who had been in power were no longer in power at the time. Some new kids were on the block. Will eventually learn of these things. I tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to pull some external names, some public information to try and back up some things, and I'll share that with you guys. Whatever I can dig up publicly, I'm going to share that with you guys. That matches what I know about. All right. I'm going to do that because do you guys do understand they're having kids? They're having kids turn in. They're having kids look up or research statements on social media made by any organization to see if it's true or false, based upon the dictionaries and the respiratory of information given to them by news media, by certain news media groups. Do you guys know that? And if they catch you saying something that is of a falsehood or cannot be trusted, you can be petitioned off the internet. Do you guys know that? Do you guys understand that now? I tell you, we're in a time we have to be holy in all manner of communication and very responsible behind our subject matter. That is to say, we have to make sure that we hear the Lord in whatever we do going forward, right? Because, listen, I'm not going to do anything of myself. I want his blessing because I know that anything the Lord has blessed, no one has power to stop. No one. But if I do it, sure, it has power to be stopped, because I'm full of errors. The Lord's way is not. And this is for support of the gospel of Jesus Christ. So, my goodness. We have a lot to cover, lots of things to cover. And I hope to see you guys while we're covering those things too. Right? Now, I'm going to get to work. I have some refinement issues on the side I have to take care of, and go ahead and start working on some of your accounts tonight here. Some of you guys on your accounts. And you guys make sure you look for our scheduling calendar this weekend. Can you do that? Also, make sure your information's correct within your small profile area, your accounts area of your website, okay? Your information is secured, but we only accept, most people only put a zip code in there. Somebody says, Mike, what about the pipeline? Pipeline's restored. Although there were 3 more attacks yesterday, but the gas is flowing. Do you guys know that? The gas is flowing in the pipeline. That's a fact. So they always had 2 pipelines going up the East Coast, but the one, here's an issue. Here's the main issue is that they were able to do it in the first place. Right? Personally, I never would have reported to a soul that they successfully did that. I would have reported that. There'd be no way I'd report that, because that means they'll do it again. That's one method, you better believe, with this group. That's one method that they utilized out of thousands they know of. And this is a group that normally holds corporations, companies hostage. They held Walmart hostage, Amazon hostage. They gather information. They sneak in there and get it, do things, and shut them down, and ask for money to release it. That's what they do. And you can suspect that's going to happen to a lot of more systems, which means we're going to have a tight lockdown over the internet, which is going to change some of the technology that we utilize. It's going to put a strain on some things for a while, but AI is going to be necessary. It's going to be necessary. If AI were fully implemented at that time, they would not have been able to do that at all. Because what do they call AI? Anybody know the nickname of AI? I believe it was Gatekeepers, one of the nicknames for it, but they have a few names for artificial intelligence that they use for the systems in the U.S. and Europe. So, very interesting names, by the way. But it has its role too. It does.